What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now PS Edition. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to discuss Cyberpunk 2077, them saying that they are still on track for their September release. I kind of want to talk about, what officially they said, and then kind of go over my analysis of it. So let's go over some of the news here. So basically, CD Projekt Red came out, has talked about really what they've been doing so far over the last little while, and basically have talked about they've moved. They're able to work from home. Everything is working really, really well. They've had a couple weeks to kind of get used to it and to get everything to make sure that it's working. And they are working. They're full steam ahead for that September 17th release date for Cyberpunk. And working from home hasn't provided any major shift. Hasn't created any major problems. Now, I've read in a couple of places. I read from one article that basically says, Bethesda actually delayed its release of Fallout 76's Wasteland update because they said that they weren't able to test it thoroughly from home. The way they normally do the testing for these updates, they are normally in the office. So the website kind of goes on to say that if this goes on longer and longer, and again, I don't want to say what this is. I think we all know what this is. But if it continues going on for much longer, then we're going to have, it's possible that the game could get delayed. I think this is very good news. I believe it. I think that's the first thing I want to talk about. And we have talked about it. I think that the gaming industry in general, as I've said, has been one of the least affected by what's going on around the world here. I do think it affects parts of it. Obviously, it affects the in-person stuff. We've seen it with The Last of Us, with Iron Man VR. We've seen it delay these games. Again, the reasoning is a little debatable, and we have discussed that in other videos. But as of right now, it hasn't done all that much, even for game releases. Now, yeah, it probably has hurt physical copies, selling of the game, but a lot of people are moving digital. And to be quite honest with you, something like this, what's going on around the world, this definitely changes things. I think will move more and more people over to digital. And I still am a fan of physical copies, and I've talked about it before. I think my favorite games are games that I have a lot of confidence in, games that are in a franchise that I really like. I like to have the physical copy, but I'm not married to it, right? It's not like it's going to make or break me if I do or don't have it. So, and again, in September 17th, we've talked about this. I think as it gets further and further, it should result in less things, going wrong for these game developers. I think something like the consoles, the next-gen consoles, yeah, those are affected. And those are affected right now because they're put through the production, right? Literally constructing the consoles, and then we get to the shipping part. Something that people have said for games like The Last of Us is they still need to technically press the discs, literally put the coating in the discs, mass produce them and send them out. That hasn't been done yet. Now you could say that hasn't been done for games like Cyberpunk, that hasn't been done for games like Avengers, that hasn't been done for any game, I would argue, that comes out later than May or longer, let's say. I think games like Doom, games like Animal Crossing, obviously they were already put to their cartridge, to their disc, whatever you want to call it. They were already put onto it, and they were already dispersed before all this kind of stuff happened. So I do understand it, and I do think it could lead to some manufacturing problems in terms of, again, distributing these units out of the game. But overall, I have said that I think what is the most likely is for these September games to stay there. We've talked about where does The Last of Us Part 2, where does Ghost of Tsushima, where do these games eventually get moved to? And I think September is still a nailed-down spot where you can have confidence that, hey, even though, as of right now, if you really think about it, now, technically, we don't have confirmation Ghost of Tsushima is delayed, but I'm going to assume that it is. We don't know, okay, so that is just, I'm just saying that. But after Predator Hunting Grounds, we have, in my opinion, there are some games, but in my opinion, they're all pretty small games. They're not they're not going to make the news in any noticeable way. We really don't have anything until we get to September. We know the games like Little Hope could come out in June. We know that they're, again, like The Last of Us, Iron Man, Ghost of Tsushima, those should come out at some point in the May through August, range, but we don't necessarily know. The next game that comes out really is Marvel's Avengers. That's really where everything, I think, kind of shifts to. And again, for the gaming industry, it is a bit tougher because we don't really hear about that many things ahead of time, right? For the movie industry, movies are coming out 2 to 3 years most of the time before they actually release, right? There's not a movie that says, hey, we're coming out in 5 months. That's not how the movie industry works. But the gaming industry, we know next to no games that come out from September on. Really, besides those 2 games, we don't know basically anything. So it is exciting because these are darker times. These are more, I would say, annoying. They're like disappointing times. You can throw around those words. To me, it's not like a fear time. It's not a time to freak out. But I understand that day in, day out, we're getting nailed in the entertainment world. I mean, obviously, there are pros and cons of life, and there's definitely some bad things going on in people's daily lives. I have no doubt about it. But in the entertainment world, in the gaming industry where we live, on this channel, on podcast now, it has been tough. All these movies getting delayed, these games now getting pushed. There's a really an uncertainty with a lot of games. Like, where are some of these games that have been announced that are supposed to come out around this time? Some games that were supposed to got moved. We don't really know what's coming out in the fall, right? And that's kind of, again, just how the gaming industry works. But I think there definitely is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's very, very good that Cyberpunk is coming out when it is, because it's gonna provide people, I think, an insane amount of playing time when we all get it. So I'm very, very excited for it. I'm glad to hear it. I honestly hope more developers come out. Again, it's hard because there's really next to no games left that aren't released right now. But I was gonna say, I would like to hear from developers and saying, yeah, what we're doing, it's still all on track. Again, tough to say that when you haven't announced your game yet. Maybe when they do announce their games over the next coming months, then they can come out and say, hey, we aren't there yet. We aren't literally at the point where we're giving the copies out to people where people can play it. But as of right now, it's full steam ahead. We have this release date in mind. We're planning on doing it. Everything's working well in our home offices. Everything's doing good. I want to hear that, and I think it's going to be pretty important for a lot of different developers, a lot of different publishers to say those things over the coming weeks, over the coming months, just to kind of ease people's minds. Because again, it's been a pretty rough time for a lot of us. So guys, let me know in the comments below. Are you excited that CD Projekt Red said, Cyberpunk is still coming out when it's supposed to? Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and I truly appreciate you guys' support. You guys have been doing incredible. This channel has been growing a lot faster than I would have expected it. We're still very, very small, obviously, but you guys are doing such an amazing job, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you watching. New videos every single day on this channel, so I hope to see you guys on tomorrow's.